The biggest issues with Black Ops 6 Zombies are not what they appear to be. In fact, many people complain about the lackluster point system and the unbelievable mangler spam. And while these are very valid criticisms of the mode, there are some major issues with Black Ops 6 that I have yet to hear anyone talk about. The first one being the exfill system. On the surface, exfilling is an absolutely fantastic idea. How many times have you played Dreisendrach, gotten your bow of choice, and eventually got bored of killing zombies after a few hours? Well, the only option you had was to let the zombies kill you. There was no way around it. Cold War thankfully introduced the exfil system, where the player can essentially leave the map if they were well equipped enough to survive an extra intense wave of zombies. On top of this, the player was rewarded with extra XP and a cool little cutscene upon success. A well thought out system like this would of course find its way into our current zombies title, Black Ops 6. So, where does the problem arise? First of all, the difficulty of completing an exfil is an absolute joke, and this is entirely because of score streaks. One single chopper gunner or mutant injection can take out an entire exfil, essentially giving the player a free ticket out of the map. Interestingly, an exfil where you choose to not use score streaks is actually somewhat challenging due to the short amount of time you have to eliminate every zombie. On Liberty Falls in particular, the abominations can take a while to kill because the player has to spend this crucial time waiting for their heads to open. To fix this issue of difficulty within the exfil, Treyarch has one main option. They should ban exfil score streaks. This change would force the player to actually engage in the exfil the way it was intended, making it significantly more difficult. In response to this challenge increase, it would only be fair if Treyarch offered the player greater rewards upon the exfil. For example, they could increase the XP gained from a successful exfil, as well as giving the player an extra gobblegum to end the match. The gobblegum you receive would scale with the round, so exfils between round 11 and 21 would give you a rare gobblegum, 26 to 36 would be an epic, 41 to 51 would be legendary, and finally rounds 56 and above would give the player an ultra gobblegum. This updated system would not only reward players for being good at zombies, but it would encourage newer players to make it to higher rounds. Speaking of higher rounds, the next fatal flaw of Black Ops 6 Zombies deals greatly with this issue. The camo grind in Black Ops 6 Zombies definitely has some good qualities. Afterlife and Nebula are both amazing camos, and the grind itself is a long one, which will be occupying most of the community for months. But there's a few issues with this grind that nobody has mentioned. These issues impact both standard mode and directed mode in their own ways. In standard mode, Treyarch encourages the player to exfil early. Within the zombies community, most players agree that exfilling on either rounds 31 or 36 provide for the most optimal camo grinding results. Now, why have these exfil rounds become a consensus? You see, the mid-20s are the place where zombies start to spawn in much more frequent numbers. On top of this, your weapons are typically still very strong at this point. Due to this apparent peak in camo potential, players are incentivized to play past the round 26 exfil, as rewards are still abundant. This time maintains until somewhere between rounds 32 and 34, when the difficulty greatly ramps up and your weapons become significantly weaker. Bosses such as manglers, amalgams, and abominations are much more frequent and start to gain lots of health, which can become a massive nuisance to the player. This rapid increase of difficulty causes most camo grinders, such as myself, to exfil in round 31 or sometimes 36, right before the game becomes decently challenging. By doing this, Treyarch deliberately encourages camo grinders to exfil before the difficult rounds, which makes the game significantly more repetitive than it should be. As much as I enjoy Black Ops 6 Zombies so far, I feel like I'm wasting time when I continue playing past round 36, as I could be using this extra time to progress with my camos, which is weird because to me and many others, Zombies is the most fun when it gets challenging. Now, I have an idea that I think would solve this issue, appealing to both experienced camo grinders and those who are just getting into the mode. Here it is. The camo progression system as we know it will remain the same, except there will be a second path for above average players. This challenge path will account for the military, specialist, and mystic gold camos. The player is required to get 2.5 thousand normal eliminations with the specific weapon in a single game, and successfully exfil on round 51 or above. If the player gets these 2.5 thousand eliminations in a match and fails to exfil, or exfils without the 2.5 thousand eliminations from the dedicated weapon, they will fail the challenge. Essentially, this idea of mine serves as a shortcut to a tedious camo grind. It offers skilled players a high-stakes challenge, incentivizing them to take a risk and test their limits. This solution also fixes my initial problem. By adding this pathway to the camo grind, players who can handle it are no longer incentivized to exfil early. Instead, they are encouraged to play longer and raise the stakes. On top of this, less talented players are not harmed in any way. The current camo grind we have in place is still viable and exactly the same in this scenario. Directed mode camo grinding has a more straightforward issue. It's extremely boring. Training on the Wonder Fizz roof of Liberty Falls for hours on end is not the most thrilling zombies experience, but at the same time, it's totally fair. Directed mode is a shortcut to this camo grind, and the price you have to pay is boredom itself. It offers absolutely zero challenge, but you save a lot of time. Ultimately, I understand why they added it, but I'm not exactly crazy about it either. The final major issue with the camo grind is seen within the sequence of unlocking camos. For example, when you complete the Afterlife camo on a gun, you unlock the Nebula camo challenge for the gun after. And it didn't used to be like this, at least not in multiplayer. Previous COD games, such as Modern Warfare 2019, had a much simpler system. You had to complete all of the camo challenges for a weapon to unlock its gold camo, and then you were simply done with the gun. Once every weapon in the game was gold, you now had the final camo Damascus on every single gun. Comparing this to Black Ops 6, you have to get Mystic Gold on each gun in a class, then get Opal, then Afterlife, then finally Nebula, forcing the player to continuously return back to the weapon. Some people might appreciate this current system for causing players to switch up their guns more frequently, but to me it seems like an unneeded chore. I much prefer the simplicity of the old system, as it was a less overwhelming experience and made getting the gold camo more rewarding. Before we look at the absolute biggest issue with Black Ops 6 Zombies, there are a few smaller problems that need addressing. The sheer amount of bugs and glitches within BO6 are astounding, especially after Season 1 began. One of the worst being a score streak glitch, where it literally doesn't allow you to use your score streaks. On top of that, when you buy a new one, it takes your salvage but doesn't fix the issue. Another issue I commonly face occurs when I attempt to put a sight on weapons with blueprints applied. The storage blueprint on the Jackal PDW has given me this issue the most, forcing me to use the iron sights even when it says a scope is applied. Tactical grenades in zombies are often susceptible to glitches as well. I have encountered plenty of times where it doesn't let me use the tacticals I bought, or it says the incorrect number, but I haven't gotten this one in a few weeks, so they might have patched it. The menu in Black Ops 6 in general has a bunch of glitches. Operators, weapon camos, and more often don't show up, which is really annoying for instances when I'm trying to look at my Battle Pass progress. Even when I look to see the new items in the store, they don't load sometimes, which I'm sure has lost Activision a large sum of money. The overall worst glitch I have experienced occurred from my friend in my last YouTube stream.
So the Easter egg bugged the SAM trial, right? And I kept clicking on it because I'm stupid, and I wasted all of my points.
Are you serious?
It bugged out and let me buy it over and over, and I just realized
that's actually hilarious.
I wasted all my points.
You're like, why?
Now in the top left, in the top left, it's just repeatedly saying SAM trial initiated, and now it finally popped up for me.
Oh, that's horrible.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that sucks.
That is awesome.
As you can see here, the SAM trial took all of his points and glitched out to where we couldn't complete it. It maintained like this for the remainder of the game, forcing us to lose out on a plethora of XP and loot. All of these glitches I showcased occurred in games I have played personally, so I'm willing to bet BO6 Zombies has a full laundry list of bugs when you account for the ones I didn't even experience. The high rounds in BO6 Zombies have quite a bit of flaws. An insane amount of boss zombies combined with the extremely slow parasite and vermin rounds made high rounds significantly worse than they should have been. Thankfully, Season 1 Reloaded appears to be addressing these issues. More specifically, these are the biggest changes releasing in this update. Reduce the number of mangler spawns at mid to high rounds, implemented a maximum cap on active manglers in the game, reduce the mangler's arm cannon health, reduce the length of special rounds, scaled parasite damage between rounds 31 and 91, slightly increased damage scaling for base zombies at round 150 to 400. Hopefully by the time this video releases, these updates are in full effect and actually improve the high rounds of Black Ops 6. Let me know what you think of the high round adjustments in the comments, and while you're there, please consider subscribing if you're enjoying this video so far. Every subscription allows me to put more time and effort into these videos and give you better zombies content, so thank you. Before we look at the biggest issue with Black Ops 6 Zombies, there is one more problem that I think is massively overemphasized by the community. The point system in Black Ops 6 Zombies is not great by any means, but it is far from the worst aspect of this game. Most Zombies titles have followed a point system based on the amount of hits you inflict on zombies. For example, in Black Ops 3, every time you hit a zombie with a bullet or melee, you receive 10 points, with additional points being rewarded for kills, 130 for melee, 100 for headshots, and 60 to 70 for normal kills. But Modern Zombies has mysteriously changed this formula. In Black Ops 6, you receive 100 points for a typical kill, 105 for melee, and 115 for a headshot. But interestingly, you no longer receive points upon damage, it's only for the kills. This unnecessary change had brought up a lot of controversy in the community because it does limit the player's point earning potential. In OG Zombies, it was much easier to earn large amounts of points. As the high rounds grew, guns did less and less damage. Thus, the zombies got hit more and more, most of the time growing the player's overall points. Nowadays, once high rounds have been hit, the guns still struggle to get kills. But in Black Ops 6, no kills means no points, and no points means you can't do much. However, I feel like a lot of Zombies fans forget about salvage. In high rounds, salvage is very abundant, and with it you can buy armor, which is essential for survival, plus score streaks and grenades are available, which can get you plenty of kills and earn your points back. On top of this, Vulture's Aid is in Citadel des Morts, which should hopefully increase ammo drops greatly. Another complaint I often hear about the point system in Black Ops 6 is that it's too difficult to recover from when you go down. Perks can cost around 30,000 if you want to buy them all, which can be a major setback, especially if you don't have enough points for the essential perks. But I would argue that Zombies has always been very difficult after a high round down. In many cases, downing in a high round meant it was over for your game, unless your teammates supported you greatly in co-op or you were just very good in solo. Overall, like many of you, I prefer the old point system, as I can't think of a single pro that the new offers over the old. With that said, I firmly believe that the complaints surrounding the Black Ops 6 point system were a bit much, and in many ways, I feel like people are complaining to complain. So let's take a look at the most fatal flaw of Black Ops 6 Zombies. What if I told you the horrendous boss spam wasn't the greatest issue with Black Ops 6 Zombies, but rather the largest solution? You see, the way Liberty Falls and Terminus are designed is very unique when looking at what many would call classic zombies. For the most part, popular zombie maps such as Shadows of Evil, Mob of the Dead, Moon, Der Riese, and many more all have pretty similar layout designs. Tight corridors and walkways create most of these experiences, with a few decently open areas that most players tend to train in. That's the typical zombie formula. In the case of Black Ops 6's launch maps, they have completely flipped this formula on its head. Tight corridors here and there, but multiple absolutely massive training areas. Specifically on Liberty Falls, the spawn area, the roof, and the road in front of the church are all training spots that would be absolutely broken in classic zombies. Given how much space is available in these maps, you'd assume Treyarch would have to make the zombies really fast, or the player really slow. But for the most part, this is not the case. The base player speed in Black Ops 6 is tremendously quick, and pairing this with stamina up and PhD slider, the movement speed goes off the charts. They did include super sprinters for higher rounds within the game, but you can still outrun them with a bit of skill and coordination. Ultimately, the player speed and design of the maps within Black Ops 6 make it so the boss spam is completely necessary. At the current zombie cap, without this influx of bosses, this game would be exceedingly easy and make a lot of players like myself less interested in the mode. I don't say this to defend the intense mangler and boss spam, because like many of you, I find it extremely tedious. I say this to highlight how Treyarch put themselves in a corner with the map designs and player speed. Thankfully, there is a clear solution to this problem, but I'm not completely sure if Treyarch will follow through with it. Simply make the design of the maps more suffocating to the player. Instead of having these huge training spots that any good zombie player could survive on for 100 plus rounds, simply tighten these areas up. And with that, the zombies will do the killing, not the manglers, amalgams, abominations, or now the doppelgasts. I'm recording this video the day before Citadel Day More comes out, so this map potentially could solve this issue, and I hope it does. I will say, having no ranged attack boss zombies on Citadel has me very excited. Hopefully, this mangler spam is more so a Liberty Falls and Terminus problem rather than a Black Ops 6 problem. On top of this, they are nerfing the manglers, which was mentioned earlier, so hopefully that will make Terminus a more enjoyable experience. Speaking of Terminus, go watch my last video, the most important map in Zombies history. And if you're still here, consider subscribing and have an amazing day. Goodbye.